Good morning, everybody. We in Reform UK are in very good heart this morning. Our judicial review will not be heard in the High Court on Thursday of this week because the government have given in, admitted what they did in trying to cancel elections, and in some cases with the connivance of the Conservative Party for a second year in a row, and now 4.6 million voters that would have been denied the right to vote despite still paying their council tax will get the right to vote on the 7th of May. And if you think about it, this was the Labour Party, the Conservatives and the Lib Dems in Cheltenham trying to deny people the vote. And we're the party that stands up for democracy, accountability, and I view yesterday as being a really, really big win. A big win, not just for us, but a big win for democracy, something that those that went before us actually fought to defend the very principle of. So this morning, we're quite proud of ourselves. Now, at the time of the general election, which seems a long time ago, I said that what we would do, we would establish a toehold in Parliament in that short campaign, and we would then move on to become the opposition party in this country to the Labour government. And whilst it may be true that the Conservative Party have more MPs in Westminster than we do, although our numbers are growing quite steadily, there is no question, given that we've now led for the last 200 opinion polls in a row, given that our average lead is between 9 and 10%, that in the country we are the voice of opposition to this government. And so it's time for the party to take the next step. Too often, the criticism over the last 20 months has been that we're a one-man band, to which I generally respond by saying, well, it's better than being a no-man band. But the time has come to broaden the party, to put in place people in shadow positions, and that process begins today, just begins today, with 4 important announcements. There are 3 things really that we're looking for when it comes to appointing people to positions to speak officially on behalf of the party. One is the youthful energy and enthusiasm that reformers who've never been in government before have. The second thing we're looking for is genuine experience, because people like Richard Tice and myself, we've not been in number 10, we've never been on the front line. We need people who've been there and who know how it works, or perhaps more accurately, how and why it doesn't work. And then we'll be looking, and we started this process last year, and it's going on today. We then need people who are genuine experts in their area to take junior ministerial positions, because frankly, the lack of real-world experience in government is being felt by every business in the land. So today's the first step on that journey, and I want to begin by inviting onto the stage my loyal deputy of the party, Richard Tice, and the man who, if we win the next general election, will be the Deputy Prime Minister, and who is going to take on a very, very important role. The department will be called Business, Trade and Energy. So it's a new super economics and business department, in many ways modelled on what the Germans did after World War II. This was their approach to it, and I'm not pretending we can produce the Wunderschaft overnight, but perhaps we can actually bring back to the world of business and energy somebody at the top of this department who's done well himself in the real world. So please welcome to the stage our head of BTE, Richard Tice.
Everybody, and thank you, Nigel, indeed. I just want you to imagine an economy that's growing at 2.5 to 3.5, sometimes 4%, year in, year out. That's what we had in the 80s and 90s. But sadly, anybody under the age of about 40 to 45 doesn't know what that feels like. That's where we've got to get back to. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we need a new super department covering business, trade, energy, including housing, with a total focus on growth and prosperity. And it makes complete sense that such a department is led by someone with a successful track record in business, who's made hundreds of millions for shareholders, investors, and lenders alike, and who brings together a team of successful business people in order to ensure that we create the right conditions to achieve those sort of levels of growth. For example, people who understand what it is to have smart and safe regulations, but to get rid of what I call the daft, the dither, and delaying regulations. Someone who understands that to be a rich nation, you have to have cheap energy, as we had in the 1980s and the 1990s. And of course, that means using the joy of our very valuable energy treasure, oil and gas, offshore, onshore, and having the courage to get rid of the madness of what we've politely coined net stupid zero, which has been so damaging to our industrial competitiveness and so expensive for everybody at home. And if we achieve those things, then we can re-industrialize Britain, we can re-energize Britain, we can renew Britain, and yes, we can rebuild Britain. And these are absolutely essential to create growth. But there's another thing that we've never had before, and that is a proper, serious British sovereign wealth fund. And I'm going to be talking this time next week in the Midlands in great detail about this. A sovereign wealth fund that backs British companies, that buys and promotes British products, and that helps ensure that we build hundreds of thousands of affordable homes in our towns, our rural areas, and our cities. This is how we make real progress. And a sovereign wealth fund as part of this department that understands about strategic national assets. Things, for example, like the ability to make primary steel, British steel, absolutely essential, that backs high-tech, defense tech, and backs critical tech. We haven't had this joined up, coordinated, strategic thinking across these areas for decades. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we've been in trouble, why growth has collapsed to the levels where, actually per person, as we speak, we're now in recession. So what we need is the best vision, the best people, and the best plans. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have in Reform UK. The truth is, our economy needs reform, and yes, it's very simple. Britain needs reform. Thank you very much.
Richard, thank you very much indeed. Now, next up is somebody who joined us recently. I suspect he might have a little less time now to do all his videos because he's taking on a very big job. I do hope that when I announce him, he's actually going to be here, which would make a nice change. But taking on the very responsible and important role of Shadow Chancellor is Robert Jenrick.
Thank you, Nigel, and I didn't keep you waiting this time. Look, we all know that our economy isn't working. And why is that? Well, we've had decades of mismanagement. But this Labour government is in a league of its own. Its record is tantamount to vandalism. It promised stability It's delivered chaos. It promised to lower bills, but they've kept on rising over and over again. Why? Well, in part, because of its crazy energy policies. They said that they wouldn't increase taxes. Well, they've increased taxes over and over again. £60 billion of tax rises to fund their waste. And because they haven't got the courage to tackle our ballooning welfare bill. Businesses are fighting for survival right now. Factories are closing. Investors are leaving the country. And people are suffering. Everyone in the country feels hard up right now. People are working all hours, and then they get to the weekend, and they've got nothing left. The normal expectations of life, they feel like luxuries right now. People just want to get on. They want to buy a nicer house, to buy a car, buy a second car, go on holiday. They want to take their kids out for a meal at the end of the week, on the weekend. But for so many people across our country, these things feel out of reach at the moment. So Nigel, thank you for giving me the opportunity to oppose the wrecking ball that is Rachel Reeves and this Labour government. And above all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak up, to be a voice for the millions of people who are being failed by this Labour government right now. We are going to put together the most comprehensive plan of any political party in this country to fix Britain's broken economy. I'm going to work with you, Nigel, with Richard, with Zia, with people with deep experience of building successful businesses, people the like of which there is no one in the current cabinet to put that plan together. It will be a plan that restores stability to our economy, a plan that cuts waste, that brings down the benefits bill, that ensures that we can lower taxes and cut bills, that brings back good jobs to this country once again. Nigel and I are going to be saying more about this tomorrow, but I'll just end by saying this. Together, we are going to build an economy that serves alarm clock Britain. The people who got up early this morning to go to work, to look after their family, the people who want a hand up, not a hand out. People who just want to get on in life, who want to feel better off. And there's no shame in that. People like my dad, Bill, who left school at 16, became an apprentice, set up a small business. People like those I grew up around in Wolverhampton and represent now in North Nottinghamshire. Decent, hard-working, family-oriented, community-oriented, patriotic Brits who just want to get on. We're going to ensure that you can keep more of your money, that the state stops taking your money and wasting it, spraying it around without any regard for how hard you worked to earn it and your own interests. More than any party, we are going to take care with your money. We're going to look after your money as you would. And we're going to work hard every single day between now and the general election and thereafter, if we're lucky enough to be entrusted with leading this country forwards, to earn your trust and confidence. We're never going to forget where we came from or who we're in politics for. We're in politics for you, for your family, for your future, and for this great country. Britain's economy is broken, but it can and it will be fixed with reform. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, thank you very much. And Robert's first big press conference will be tomorrow at 11 o'clock here in central London. Next up is somebody who is relatively new to politics. He's only really been in the game for just over 20 months, but he's made a massive impression already, a very powerful public debater and television performer. And Zia Youssef will take on the role of Shadow Home Secretary with, of course, particular reference to that one issue, above all, that has broken the trust of the British public, with manifesto after manifesto just not telling the truth. I'm talking, of course, about both legal and illegal immigration. Please welcome Zia Youssef.
Everyone, good morning. So I'm going to open with a statistic. 1 in every 25 people wandering around in Britain today arrived in the last 5 years. 1 in every 25 people in Britain today arrived in the last 5 years. Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. Look, I'm the son of immigrants myself. And my parents, between them, have given almost half a century of service to our NHS. I'm really proud of them. So no one knows better than I the invaluable contribution migrants can make to this great country. But we have to be honest. The sheer scale of immigration over the last 3 decades has broken Britain. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited in the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. And those people, instead of being detained and deported, have been given free accommodation, free meals, free access to healthcare, free taxis, free leisure activities, at the expense of the British people, to the tune of tens of billions of pounds every single year. And that's just illegal immigration. If we talk about legal immigration, just since 2010, the equivalent of the populations of Edinburgh, Leeds, Sheffield, Nottingham, Stoke, Bristol, and Cardiff have been added to our populations. So is it any wonder why it's so difficult to get a GP appointment? Why everyone feels unsafe because violent criminals are let out of jail because of overcrowding? We don't have enough prison places. Why tens of thousands of people, to our eternal shame as a country, are forced to wait more than 2 days in accident and emergency. Just imagine that. And by the way, nobody voted for this. In fact, they voted expressly in the opposite way. Everything I just described could credibly be described as the most profound betrayal of the British electorate in history. The Tories said that they would cut net immigration to the tens of thousands, that is a direct quote, in 4 consecutive manifestos. And what did they deliver? They delivered 12 million people migrated into this country in their 14 years, 6.5 million people net. And did they build enough infrastructure? I'll let you be the judge of that. They built a grand total of 411 net new prison places, not 411,000, 411. And to their eternal shame, they left the country with fewer hospital beds. The number of British people who have literally died as a result of the appalling betrayal on immigration in this country is actually unquantifiable. And I also want to talk about the fact that we are about to feel the aftershocks of some of those decisions. Because the Boris wave, what has become known as the Boris wave, is only about to hit the books in terms of the Treasury. So that's north of 3 million people that arrived in about 3 years against the wishes of the British people. In fact, the mandate was get Brexit done, secure our borders, reduce immigration. Instead, Boris, quote, took back control, threw open our borders. And as a result of that, those 3 million people, of those half of whom have never worked, will never work, almost 80% of them came in on non-work visas. Imagine that. This is a deliberate act. And as a result of all of that, the most conservative estimates assume that as they are granted indefinite leave to remain in the coming months and years, that's going to cost the British taxpayer hundreds of billions of pounds. So I want to be crystal clear. If Reform win the next general election and Nigel's our Prime Minister as Home Secretary, number one, we will stop the boats. Number two, we will enact our plan that we've already published, Operation Restoring Justice. We will not just leave the ECHR, we will derogate from every international treaty that would otherwise then be used to frustrate and upend deportations. We will take on the serious and real threat that has been neglected of radical Islam in this country and ensure that if you come to this country with the goal of upending and usurping our laws, you will be deported forcibly. If you are in this country illegally right now and you are watching this, I want to be crystal clear. As Reform's Home Secretary, I will ensure that you are deported from these lands. A Reform government will ensure that we right the wrongs of manifold governments in recent decades. Look, this is a great country, a country full of decent, hard-working, lovely people with the warmest hearts anywhere in the world. And the reason I know that is that my mum would tell me that over the dinner table for decades, how lovely the people here are in this great country who welcomed my parents, for which I'm so grateful. But I will not allow, and a Reform government and Nigel will not allow, that goodwill to be taken advantage of. And for decades now, those lovely people of Britain have been betrayed by a political class that have failed in their most basic duty. We will not fail in that duty. We will uphold that duty. We will stop the boats. We will secure our borders. We will deport people who are in this country illegally. We will keep British people safe. And as a result of that, a Reform government with Nigel Farage as our Prime Minister will make Britain poised, proud, prosperous, and powerful. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Zia, thank you very much. Well, he couldn't have been much clearer than that, could he, really? Next up, the fourth appointment of today, and by the way, this is by no means the end of the process, it's just the beginning of the process. But fourth up today is somebody whose absolute determination in politics has always been very, very clear. And she is itching to get on with this brief, because I think that millions of parents all over this country are in a state of despair about what their children are being taught at school, about far too many young people being sent to university and being lumbered with heavy debts without any benefit to them in the workplace. And not only will Suella Braverman take on education and skills, something that's been ignored for too long, but she will also take on equalities under this brief, which of course means the world of DEI. And I know she's itching to get on with it. Suella.
I'm deeply honoured to have been asked by Nigel Farage to be Reform UK's spokesman for education, skills and equalities. Now, what we teach our children, and indeed how we teach them, has a profound effect on the destiny of our country. I've been passionate about education myself for years because education changed my life. And frankly, I wouldn't be standing here today were it not for the wonderful teachers, wonderful schools, and brilliant education that I was so lucky to receive. Yet it is clear today that in too many respects, we are getting it wrong in our schools. Across our schools, a quiet crisis has taken hold. Violence and disorder have eroded the authority of teachers. Too many teachers now face the fear of intimidation and assault in the classroom. Discipline, once the backbone of education has been weakened in the name of progressive ideology. At the same time, the foundations of knowledge, literacy, and numeracy have been undermined by this Labour government. Changes to Ofsted, a dumbed-down curriculum, are all replacing excellence with mediocrity. In some classrooms, children are taught to view Britain with shame rather than pride, to focus on grievance rather than gratitude. They're taught more about gender ideology than biological fact. This is not education as it should be. I know what is possible because I've seen it with my own eyes. Years before I was even a member of Parliament, I helped to establish one of the first free schools in the country, a school that went later on to become one of the best schools in the country, the Michaela Community School in my hometown of Wembley, where I served as chairman of governors. Guided by a traditional curriculum, firm discipline, and the unshakable belief in every child's potential, Michaela Community School has transformed thousands of lives, not by accident, but as a product of clarity, courage, and conviction. And we must now summon the will to replicate that success around the country. That is why a reform government will restore freedom to our schools and restore authority to our teachers to uphold order, standards, and respect. It's why a reform government will deliver a patriotic, balanced curriculum that fosters a love of our great country. And it's why a reform government will bring an end to the transgender chaos in the classroom. Social and gender transitioning will be absolutely banned in all schools, no ifs, no buts. Meanwhile, too many of our universities are failing our young people. Today, 700,000 graduates are unemployed, each of them carrying, on average, £50,000 worth of student debt. The truth is that too many of our young people have been sold a lie about university, wasting 3 years of their lives on Mickey Mouse courses, all while we have a chronic shortage of nurses, builders, and care workers. The system is broken. So I tell you what we need. Instead of Tony Blair's 50% of young people going to university, this is what we need. We need Nigel Farage's 50% of young people going into the trades. That's what will produce the next generation of carpenters, electricians, and technicians that our country is crying out for, all to work in a thriving manufacturing sector. Now, these are not lesser callings. These are noble professions. And these will be the people who rebuild Britain. They won't just rebuild our infrastructure. They will rebuild our confidence and our national self-belief. And to those universities that have descended into hotbeds of cancel culture, anti-Semitism, and which survive really thanks to the cash of foreign students, and keep conning young people into worthless degrees, reform is putting you on notice. And finally, in my equalities brief, let me say this. The Britain that I love is being ripped apart by diversity, equality, and inclusion. Because the truth is that DEI has become less about diversity and more about conforming to left-wing ideology. Less about equality and more about prejudice against white people. Less about inclusion and more about exclusion of those who dare to challenge the dogma. It's why was it acceptable for white Christian men to be discriminated against by the Sentencing Council? Why did nobody do anything for years when the police turned a blind eye when thousands of white working-class girls were being systematically raped by largely Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs? And why does no one in this government seem to care that it's white working-class boys who have the worst educational outcomes in our country today? So do you know what a reform government will do? Well, on day one, we will get rid of the Equalities Department. We will scrap the Equalities Minister. Yeah, I'm doing myself out of the job. And we will repeal the Equality Act, because we are going to work to build a country defined by meritocracy, not tokenism, personal responsibility, not victimhood, excellence, not mediocrity, and unity, not division. So let's build a country where every young person, regardless of where they come from, regardless of the colour of their skin, their religion, what their parents did, where every young person can rise as far as their talents and efforts can carry them. That's the country I love, and that is the country we can build together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, again, there was no room for any confusion there, was there? What you're seeing today is just a start, but a very important start, and 4 very competent, capable people who will take on these areas, do their own press events, travel around the United Kingdom, and you'll be seeing a lot more of all of them over the course of the coming days, weeks and months, and who knows, maybe a little bit less of me. We're certain that Britain is broken and that Britain needs reform. We're deadly serious about what we're doing. We are now the opposition to the Labour government, and we intend to campaign in even more seats than we thought this time yesterday as May the 7th approaches, which is our next big, very big landmark moment. Now, I have a number of questions from the press, and you can address them to me or any of the panel. It's entirely up to you. First up is Christopher from GB News.
Thank you, Nigel Farage. Some quick questions. Why no Defence Secretary? Why no Foreign
I can't win,
Secretary?
really, can I?
Well, no, but these are the most important issues facing this country, our protection. Why have you chosen these individuals for these jobs particularly? What about others? Lee Anderson, he's not here. Sarah Pochin, why have you chosen people who aren't MPs for jobs over MPs? And Richard Tice, are you happy you're not Shadow Chancellor?
OK, I can't win. This time yesterday, we're a one-man band. I mean, now you want a bus full. I mean, what can I do? I've appointed 4 people that I think are ideally suited to those roles. Very straightforward, very simple. And I think if you listen to me carefully, at the end I said, this is just the beginning. And that's exactly what it is. OK, do you want to respond to that, Richard?
Yeah, look, we're all delighted. We're getting on with the job, and as Shadow Deputy Prime Minister, leading a huge department that meets my skills, doing things differently, that's who we are at Reform. And this British Sovereign Wealth Fund that I talk about next week, come along, Chris, to the Midlands. I know it's a bit further north, but come along and you'll listen to the detail.
Yeah, your question actually sums up in a way why we failed post-war and why Germany didn't. They thought about economics and business differently to us, and they outperformed us decade after decade after decade. And we didn't. We left absolutely everything under the Treasury banner, and frankly, there's an awful lot more to do out there, out around the country, and I'm looking forward to Richard. Well, I mean, we'll barely see him. He's going to be in Aberdeen, and he's going to be up visiting what's left of our refineries, what's left of our manufacturing industry. So it's an absolutely vital job, given the dire economics we're currently in. Alex from the BBC.
Thank you very much, Alex Forsyth, BBC News. You said right at the beginning of your speech today that you're a party that stands up for democracy in light of the action you took against the government's decision to postpone elections for May. Why then are you still resisting by-elections for the increasing number of Conservatives that are joining your party to allow people to have their democratic say? And on this announcement today, you have chosen to promote 2 very recent Conservatives to the first bit of your top team, if you like, people that were ministers who were the architects of the policies that you now criticise. Why should people believe this party will be any different to what's gone before? Well,
I think you'll find these were two people who were ministers, but frankly weren't ministers for very long because they were eased out of their positions or they resigned because of the failure of that government. And I've made it clear that we need experience. And there's no way around that. You know, with the best will in the world, on this stage today, Richard, Zia, myself, we don't have that level of experience. We've not had to deal face-to-face with the civil service. We've got an awful lot to learn. These guys will help us to learn that. Danny Kruger, of course, is running his own department, getting us ready for government and some of the challenges that we will face. And I think what this shows you is we are taking this seriously. It's also important to recognise that far from becoming the Conservative Party 2.0, every one of the people that have come have held their hands up and admitted the sheer scale of the failure under the watch of the last 14 years, and in particular, the total disappointment and failure of the government under Boris Johnson, and that includes the Boris wave. Of the last 200 defections that have happened in Parliament, only 2 have resulted in by-elections, and frankly, we haven't got time. We've got too much to do. The government's in chaos. A general election is coming next year. I've been saying that for a very, very long time. I'm still entirely confident of it, and goodness me, don't we need it. Alex from Sky News.
Nigel, Kemi Badenoch said recently that defections to your party had allowed her to get rid of drama queens who create problems. How are you going to ensure that reform won't fall prey to the same psychodrama that plagued the Tories?
Very simple. If people mess about, behave badly, and are disloyal, they won't be here very long. We're not going to put up with it. We're not going to put up with it. We'll have our disagreements, of course we will. But we'll have those disagreements in private, behind closed doors, resolve our issues, resolve our disputes that naturally happen when any group of human beings come together. But, I mean, you know, I won't tolerate it publicly. We haven't got time. We're not going to put, you know, we are not going to aim for government to put it through the same psychodrama that the Conservatives did for over 4 years, where they spent more time fighting each other than they did fighting for the country. So I think we're pretty clear on that, and everybody that's doing this, you know, is doing this with a very clear sense of purpose. We genuinely believe that this country is in deep, deep trouble. The spiral of decline is rapid, and it needs to be turned around. And indeed, one of the most common things that is said to me in the street now by people who are supportive is, you may be the last chance we've got. And that's just how seriously we're taking this. Harry from ITV.
Thank you very much. Harry Horton, ITV News. Nigel Farage, you'll be well aware that 2 of the people standing beside you also wanted the role of Shadow Chancellor, and they haven't got it. You say you're not a one-man band anymore. Are you sure you can keep this band together for the next however many years until the next election? And then a question to Zia Youssef. Have you spoken to the man to your left about the Boris wave, as you call it? And have you two put your differences aside?
Well, I don't think Zia's held back on the Boris wave too much, do you? And from what I can remember, Jenrick resigned as immigration minister. What more do you want? What more do you want? He resigned. He could see what was going wrong. He tried to put the right things in place. So I don't think we need to answer the question, frankly. I think it really rather speaks for itself. Gary from Channel 4.
Thank you very much. Rather grand titles here. Am I meant to call you Shadow Prime Minister?
You've called me many things over the years. It's okay.
What do you say to Reform Party members, long marchers perhaps, who've been with you in previous parties, who look at what they think are highly ambitious Tories whose careers were frustrated, finding a home here? And you said this was a one-man band until very recently. Is there a reason for that? Have you ever run anything that wasn't a one-man band? And do people really change?
I think I've been rather successful, don't you? Tell me anybody else in modern-day politics that set up political parties. I am a political entrepreneur. I do things that nobody else could do. I set up organisations, and in the past they've been with a very specific purpose, getting us out of the European Union, getting Brexit back on track. Both of those, albeit a very long march, both of those were successful. This is different. This is not just about one cause or one issue. This is about a country that's going down the tubes, that has two political parties that have utterly failed, that don't have the courage to stand up for the British people or to put them first. And this is about creating a machine for government. And I'll tell you what I'm really pleased about. A year ago, you look at opinion polls, and Farage's popularity and the party's popularity were two different things. There was a big gap between the two. Now, if I was hit by a bus tomorrow, Reform has its own brand. Reform has its own identity, and now Reform has its own senior characters with their own departments to lead. So I'm enormously proud of that. But I can assure you that that phase of getting this thing going, of raising the money, of raising our profile, we're past that phase, and that's what today is actually all about. Next, we have Andy Bell from Channel 5.
Thank you very much, Andy Bell, 5 News. Just looking back over your career, Douglas Carswell...
Gosh, how long have we got?
Douglas Carswell...
How long have we got?
Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe... You've got to admit, a lot of people have stood on the stage next to you and thought that they were part of the future, and very quickly they weren't. Why should these people standing next to you now feel that this is going to change?
There are people in this room who've worked for me for 10 years. There are people in Brussels who worked for me for 20 years. There's one guy working for me now who's worked for me on and off in various things for 30 years. What you will find is that I am very, very loyal and trusting of people who return that courtesy. Now, there have been one or two people over the years who think, well, it's really back to the previous question, well, if Farage can set up a party and get millions of votes, we can. And you're witnessing that process going on at this very moment in time. Thank you very much indeed. And good luck to them. It won't last long. Next up, Claire from the Daily Mail.
Nigel Farage, the Tories have branded this new front bench a tribute act. How do you respond to that? And Robert Jenrick, is your ambition to be a tax-cutting chancellor? Would you commit to reversing some of Labour's tax rises, including the freeze on national insurance? Thank you.
Two responses. Number one, we won that court case yesterday against the Conservative Party, who stood up in Parliament and said it's an outrage to delay elections, and then in the case of Norfolk, Suffolk, East Sussex and West Sussex, tried to put off the elections for a second year in a row. And that's your Tory party. Facing both ways at the same time, no sincerity, and frankly, after May the 7th, when you come to our May the 8th press conference, you will see they have ceased to be a national political party, geographically. It's over.
Well, and to your point, taxes are clearly too high. People are suffering right now in the country. We want to bring taxes and bills down. We want to bring back good jobs. But it sounds like you're coming along tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the city. Hear more about it.
Very good. Peter from The Telegraph. Gosh, it's a long list.
Thanks very much. Nigel, back on local elections, is Labour trying to throw its own lawyers under the bus by saying that their legal advice changed? And should they need to publish both sets of advice they were given to show how it changed?
Yes, I'd love to see all the legal advice published. I wonder whether there was any. They got away with it last year. They thought they could get away with it this year. They didn't realise or reason that we would, have the muscle to take them to judicial review. I was delighted when the boss of the Electoral Commission over the weekend said what they were doing was illegal. Clearly, what they did was illegal. They knew they were going to lose in court. That is why they caved in, all of which makes me ask, how can Steve Reed go on as the minister responsible, having attempted to take away the vote from 4.6 million people? I'm very surprised he's still in position after yesterday's letter. I really am. Thank you. Let us move on to Noah from The Sun.
Thank you. Noah Hoffman from The Sun. Mr. Farage, one of your Reform colleagues, Nadeem Zahawi, went on the radio and spoke about what he described as a terrifying ordeal where he saw a man who looked either tired, perhaps a bit dodgy, and that sparked a lot of ridicule. Was he being too precious, or do you think he had a wider point to make?
The wider point is, and you can listen to the North London posh commentariat, who will tell you that crime is coming down, that London has never been safer. Well, maybe they should get out of their chauffeur-driven cars and walk around a bit more. And I think that's a snapshot of that that Nadeem Zahawi was talking about. Fear of crime and actual rising crime will dominate the May the 7th elections that take place in all 32 London boroughs, and I believe it will as we go on and fight the mayoral elections against Khan, who's going to run for the 4th time. I believe that issue, amongst all others, means that I do genuinely believe that Lena Cunningham is favourite to be the next Mayor of London. Genuinely, I do. David from The Express.
Thank you. If after the May elections we see potentially the SNP still in power in the Scottish Parliament, and Plaid Cymru obviously are in a great race with yourselves to lead the Welsh Parliament, do you fear that a reform government could actually find one of its greatest immediate challenges is holding the United Kingdom together? And if I could just ask Mr. Jenrick, regarding the axing of the two-child benefit cap, is that something which a reform government would restore, or are you going to welcome that it's gone, and where's the money going to be spent?
I'm going to speak for Robert here. Wait for tomorrow. Is that right? 11 o'clock tomorrow, Robert will lay all of this out, okay? So there's no point pursuing that. No, I'm not. I was told that Brexit would break up the United Kingdom. I see no evidence of that. Plaid have risen in the polls in Wales as Labour sink to catastrophe in what was really one of their traditional heartlands, particularly in the south, in the valleys. But actually, if you look at the polls in Wales, Reform are 4 to 5 points ahead in most of those polls. In Scotland, yes, the SNP are in the lead. They believe in separation from the United Kingdom, but I think they also believe in their hearts they would never carry that in a referendum, and that there isn't going to be one for some years to come. So no, I don't fear that at all. Daisy from The Times.
Thank you. For Nigel Farage, is this the end of the defectors now you've used up 4 of your strongest bargaining chips, or have you deliberately kept the roles of Foreign and Defence Secretaries under wraps so that you retain a bit of your bargaining power? And for Robert Jenrick, I appreciate you're giving a speech tomorrow, but a big story today is that unemployment has hit the highest level in 5 years. As Reform's Chancellor, what would be your plan to fix this?
Well, look, the economy is in a real mess right now. We can all see that. And nothing is more important to us as a party than jobs and getting companies to employ people and getting people back into the job market, particularly young people. Youth unemployment in this country is now at its highest level in years. It's higher than it is in Europe now for the first time this century. This is going to be one of our priorities. How do we do that? Well, we're going to set out our economic plans tomorrow, but it's going to be about reducing bills, having a sensible energy policy to make our country more competitive once again, reducing taxes as we can, and bringing back good jobs in all parts of the country. So hopefully I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning.
Very good. The end of the defectors. Wow, it's got a certain ring to it, isn't it, really? It could even be a book. I might write it. You never know. You will have known that on the Conhome site that Robert was the most popular frontbencher and that Suella was the most popular backbencher. I think having taken those two from the still Conservative wing of the Conservative Party. I mean, most of the Lib Dems now, obviously, certainly in the House of Commons. Do you know something? I'll answer that honestly. There are very, very few, hardly any, other people left in the front lines of this Conservative Party that we would even be vaguely interested in. And I'm pleased to say that we are talking to some Labour figures all over the country. And as I've said this before, at one of these conferences, that will come in time. Thank you. Moving on to Rhiannon from the Press Association.
Hi, Rhiannon from the Press Association. Your former colleague and friend Rupert Lowe has just launched Restore Britain. Are you feeling threatened at all by Restore Britain? And particularly now he's had the backing of Elon Musk, and it could split your vote.
I don't know about former friend. He sued me in 2019, as he sues everybody. And if you look at the history of Southampton Football Club, and then look at the history of WH Ireland, which he chaired in the city of London, you will see he was removed from both of those roles after lawsuits galore and 2 very dramatic EGMs. So friend would be stretching it just a little bit. There are, last time we counted, 11 parties that claim to be on the right or centre-right of British politics, from the Heritage Party to goodness knows who else. There is only one proper brand of centre-right politics in this country. It's called Reform. And as I'd mentioned earlier, you know, people think, oh, Farage has done it. We'll just set a party up. It'll be marvellous. We'll sweep the next election. It just isn't as easy as that. Now, does he have a profile on X? Yes, he does. Is Elon going to support him? Probably. But you see, you know, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities, including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, you know, I realised we just had to get rid of him, and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you. James from The Spectator.
Zia, firstly, can I just ask how you reconcile your new role with your existing commitments as head of policy? And second of all, Nigel, one of your recent Tory defectors, Adam Holloway, is currently 6,000 miles away, storming the beaches of the Chagos Islands. Is this an early gain ahead of the May elections?
You may have noticed I'm wearing my Chagos Islands a British badge. I think what happened yesterday is truly remarkable. A people who lived for centuries on those islands, forcibly, and as it turns out, totally unnecessarily, removed from the islands, almost a crime against humanity, frankly, by a Labour government in the late 1960s. They were moved to Mauritius, where they met the most appalling racism and poverty. They're living in this country now, mostly around Crawley Airport, which is extraordinary, around Gatwick Airport in Crawley. The fact that they have landed back on Paros Banos, they haven't gone as holidaymakers, they've gone with the equipment to put together a settlement. They're drilling wells today, they're going to rebuild the church, tidy up the old graveyard and build a permanent settlement. And Emisley Mandarin, who's now the First Minister, anticipates many, many hundreds will move to Paros Banos and hopefully some of the other atolls, and that will happen, you know, as the next few months go by and it becomes genuinely habitable. I think what's happened is totally extraordinary. And the fact that Adam Holloway, who is now Reform, has been expedition leader is terrific. I think it's a remarkable, extraordinary thing that happened yesterday. I wish them well in absolutely every way. A terrible, terrible wrong is now being righted, and I'm pleased that Adam Holloway's given them that assistance. The Americans have nothing to fear, because Paros Banos is 120 miles away from Diego Garcia. Amateur Gossians welcome the American presence. And I hope this is the final nail in the coffin of the worst foreign policy decision I've seen in my lifetime. And given we've now had 15 major U-turns, let Chagos be the 16th. Thank you. Camilla from the Daily Tea.
Hi, everyone. Just to follow up on PA's question, actually, Rupert Lowe, according to Find Out Now, is polling at 10% with his Restore Britain. I will ask you whether you think that's a credible figure. Second of all, with the right divided 3 ways, 11 ways, according to you, I did ask Zia Youssef on my GB News show on Sunday if faced with the prospect of a so-called progressive alliance of Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens, would reform do its patriotic duty to unite the right? And he seemed to indicate yes, which seems at odds with your position. So are you united in reform on uniting the right?
Do you know, there is disagreement in political parties. It happens. And between human beings. Look, I've no intention of doing a deal and shaking hands with people that I believe to be utterly dishonourable. And that is how I view the Conservative Party, and particularly after 2019, you know, we got rid of Theresa May. It was the Brexit Party that did it, albeit the Spartans helped get us to that line. And, you know, we sort of opened the door up for Boris Johnson, helped him get a bigger majority, and I feel absolutely betrayed by Johnson and what that Conservative government did. I've been in business a long time. I do lots of deals. Some are successful, some are failures. But you know what? I do deals, I look people in the eye, I shake their hands because I trust them. I do not trust this Conservative Party, and the best evidence of that is Kemi Badenoch's performance over the cancelled elections, facing both ways at the same time. That's no use to me at all. As far as Rupert Lowe is concerned, there will be some polling published later today that shows his recognition factor amongst members of the British public. It is not very high at all. And so a push poll that says 10% is utter rot. The party isn't even registered. He won't be on 1% anywhere, not even probably in Great Yarmouth. Thank you. Samara from Talk TV.
Mr. Farage, has there been any internal upset within the ranks about your appointments today? And is it true that you plan to make a 5th great office of state?
No answer to the second part. I haven't yet decided and charted the course forward. Any internal upset? Not that's yet been made known to me. And if there is, tough. Right, thank you. We're not mucking about here. We haven't got time. The country's in too much trouble. We've got to get on with the job. Hugo from the iPaper.
Thank you. Richard Tice, you've talked about the need to regenerate industry. So Braverman talked about getting more people into trades. And obviously, Nigel Farage mentioned Germany's post-war journey a couple of times. Mr. Tice, is it your intention to reduce the proportion of Britain's economy that relies on services if you get into office?
Well, the reality is we've got to grow the whole economy. But we can see the impact of high energy prices, and essentially decarbonisation has led to the deindustrialisation of the UK economy. And it's been an absolute disaster. And it's why one of the main reasons we've got no growth whatsoever. Let's grow all of the UK economy across the range of different sectors as fast as we can. And for all of those under the age of 45, we want them to experience an economy that's growing 3.5%, 4% a year. At the moment, those people of those ages have never experienced that. It's a great feeling, and that's what we've got to get to.
Yeah, and there's a big change of thinking, you know. From the 1980s, it was all about who can manufacture stuff the most cheaply, and let's import it, export it, let's have just-in-time supply chains. And kind of that argument went right through Blair's time, right through much of Labour's time, even up to and including the referendum arguments. We can't leave the EU because of the just-in-time supply chains. I think with the threats that we've seen in the world from Russia, the threats we've seen in the world from China, I think there is now such a thing as strategic industries that actually matter to a country. And that's why one of the things that Richard's going to be working on is to put together an industrial strategy for the country going forward. So we're talking here about quite a marked shift in what's been a prevailing economic orthodoxy for the best part of, well, nearly, 45 years. Thank you. Right, a few more to go. Lucy from Bloomberg.
Thank you. You and your various MPs at various times have spoken about the need to improve birth rates in the UK. Suella spoke about the scrapping of the Equality Act. Are you worried that that might have a chilling effect on birth rates, given the protections that it gives for maternity leave? And if I can ask as well on Suella, who mentioned the need to improve skills and get more people into jobs like nursing, do you accept that part of the problem there is also around public sector pay? And what do you plan to do about that?
Well, I think actually one of the problems is we put a cap on the number of doctors and nurses in this country that we train, and then rely on doctors and nurses coming from much, much poorer, in particular African countries, where they're probably needed even more. I think the whole thing's absurd. Suella, do you want to answer that stuff about births and families?
Scrapping the Equality Act means getting rid of the pernicious, divisive notion of protected characteristics. But of course, in the workplace, people do require some protection. So, of course, it's all about making sure we strike a balanced approach, protecting those people in the workplace who have legitimate needs, but also getting rid of this whole industry that has grown up over the years, which is dividing people, dividing our country, and doing so much harm.
Thank you. Samuel from City AM.
Thank you very much. It's one from Mr. Jenrick. I understand you have a speech tomorrow in the City. I just want to ask you on a policy reform has already come out with regarding the banking industry. You've previously come out against the idea of a windfall tax. In 2022, you said a tax on exceptional and unexpected trading profits does not inspire long-term confidence. Now, this was about a levy on energy companies, but I'm wondering how you reckon this with reforms policy and a lot of Mr. Farage's rhetoric towards the banking industry. And then just on that, how do you hope to be reform's man to woo the City with a policy that is going to get so much pushback from the financial services sector and lead to firms likely pulling investment or threatening to pull? And if I may, just one for Ms. Braverman, on the industrialisation policies you've been discussing recently and happy for reform to pursue socialist policies, do you still identify as a conservative, and would you say reform will govern as conservatives?
What are these socialist policies? I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit confused.
Industrialisation comments.
What?
I'll find you the line.
Don't know, do you?
There's actually a case for, if we were serious about industrialising our country and the renaissance of our industry, state involvement in our industries.
Well, I don't think state involvement in strategic industries is socialism. I mean, I understand you saying that socialism might be, a very high percentage of the British economy, being involved in what in the old days we would have called the means of production. There's nothing socialist about saying that the British government should maybe take a stake in some of these strategic industries. That's not nationalisation, far, far from it. So I do actually reject that completely. Robert?
Well, if I can concur with Nigel there, there's nothing socialist about saying that our economy should be concerned about salvaging strategic industries like steel or car making. We're losing those strategic industries now, and as a result of the crazy net zero policies, frankly, of the last Conservative government and now of this one, we're rapidly deindustrialising. It's not socialist to say that we want to revert that, particularly when we're a 90-odd% service-based economy that is being massively disrupted by AI. So we're going to have an industrial strategy, and we're going to have an economic plan that salvages the good jobs and those strategic industries. Be in no doubt of that. I think what you're referring to, I said in the past, was I disagreed with the last Conservative government's decision to increase and set the energy profits levy, which was massively harmful to long-term investment in the North Sea. I continue to agree with what I said previously. That is already proving to be very damaging to the tens, the hundreds of thousands of good jobs that rely on that industry, particularly in the northeast of Scotland. And that is something that Richard and I will continue to work on. As regards the City, well, look, I hold my hands up. I didn't work for 10 years as an economist at the Bank of England. I'm not a chess grandmaster. But with Richard and Nigel, I do intend to get out to talk to businesses in the City and, frankly, right across the country so that we can build the best possible, most productive relationship and one of trust that they can see in us a government in waiting that can be trusted with the economy, and above all, people listening to this programme, to this event today, can know that we will be careful with their money and provide the stability that our economy desperately needs right now and is not being provided by Rachel Reeves and this Labour government.
Thank you. Noah from Politico.
Thank you very much. Nigel Farage, you've previously said that a ban on social media for under 16s would be ludicrous. Have you changed your mind, or would reform reverse any ban introduced by a Labour government, hypothetically? And just secondly, other opposition parties have said that Palantir's contract with the MOD should be scrutinised quite closely because of its links with Global Counsel and Peter Mandelson. What's Reform UK's view on Palantir's relationship with the British government? Thank you very much.
Well, as far as I know, Palantir is a private company, very close to this Labour government, who clearly believe in their abilities to do things. I do understand that the government went to Palantir with the compulsory ID scheme, and Palantir refused the business. Well, good for them is all I can say. So maybe there are some nice things we ought to be saying about Palantir, it seems to me. Right, we've got to move on. Time is running out. Let's go to Natasha at OBC.
Thank you. Mr Farage, you've repeatedly talked about the lack of business experience in the current cabinet and, of course, in the Treasury. Yeah. Are you sure that Robert Jenrick has enough of that, given his past working as a lawyer and in an auction house, or was this just the price of his defection?
As far as I was aware, Christie's was a private business. Am I wrong?
Sorry, say again.
Christie's is a private business. Am I wrong?
So you're saying you do feel like...
And what was his position at Christie's?
I don't know. What was his position?
Well, you ought to know. Robert, I mean, have you ever worked in the private sector?
Well, unlike everyone in this Labour cabinet, I have worked in the private sector. In fact, I only worked in the private sector before coming into Parliament. I worked in the city as a lawyer. I worked in business, helping to run a great British business. And I've served in government and around the cabinet table, including in the Treasury. So look, I'm proud of what I've done. I believe I bring experience to this team. But above all, what Nigel, Richard, Zia, Suella and I all share is a diagnosis about what has gone wrong in this economy, not just in the last 2 years, but in the last 20 or 30 years, and a determination to put together the best possible plan to fix this country. That is what we will do as a team. We'll build trust in time, piece by piece, beginning tomorrow with our speech in the city.
He's got more private sector experience than the whole of the cabinet added up together and multiplied by 5. Right, let's move on.
Sorry, can I just ask you about...
Well, you've had one go, but go on, one quick one.
Lots of other people have had 3 goes, Nigel. Can I just ask you about the latest revelations with Prince Andrew? Do you think that he should face a police investigation? Thank you.
Clearly. Painful to say it about a member of the royal family, but clearly. I'm also quite keen to know more about Peter Mandelson's links with Russia. Very, very keen to know more about that as well. So, yeah, look, this has lifted the lid. The Epstein case has lifted the lid on a... It's actually... There are now more questions than there were before the files were released. And, yes, Prince Andrew does clearly have questions to answer, I'm afraid. Sadly. Eleanor from Guido Fawkes.
Thank you, Nigel. Last week, Reform opened its candidate application process for the next general election.
Yep.
How many applications have you had so far? And just briefly, Richard, are you still head of Reform's Doge unit?
Yes, is the answer to that. And we're doing incredible things. And it's going to be even busier on May the 8th when we're in lots of other councils. Of that I can assure you.
I don't know is the answer. All I do know now is we have to put 5,432 candidates in the field for May the 7th. It is an absolutely gargantuan job, not just for us, but for the other parties as well. The last I heard was last week, and 600 had applied in the first 2 days. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you. But my focus clearly has got to be, our focus, all of us, has got to be making sure we really are battle ready for May the 7th, including another 900 seats that'll be fought that weren't being fought yesterday morning. So that gives you some rough idea. Okay, Millie from The Independent.
Thank you. Matt Goodwin has suggested that people who don't have children should be taxed extra to tackle what he sees to be a growing fertility crisis in Britain. Do you agree that fertility in Britain is a crisis that needs to be tackled? And is taxing those without kids something Reform would consider implementing?
I wouldn't want to tax anybody more, but you might give people tax breaks for having quite a few children, given that the cost of living is as appallingly high as it is. And, you know, it's really interesting. I mean, I did a surgery event the other week in Clacton, and bloke says, he says, I'm working 7 days a week. I'm working all the hours God sends. I'm clearing out lofts. I'm doing this, that, and the other. He said, the people next door, oh, it's different for them. They don't get up till midday. Deliveroo keeps bringing food round. He said, they go on holiday. We can't afford it. So there is this incredible gap now. And actually millions of people working who might be better off claiming a whole range of benefits. So if part of our strategy going forwards, if part of it, it'll be up to him, not me, if part of our strategy going forwards is to find some way that we can help young working people have kids in an affordable manner, that to me would be a very decent and very good thing to do. And kind of gets back a little bit to the earlier question about equalities in birth. Right, 3 more. Anna from the FT.
My first question's to Zia Youssef. You've no doubt seen the incredibly violent scenes unfolding at the hands of ICE in the US, and yet you've boasted about creating the UK's version of that here that would round up hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants and deport them. Do you really believe that the British public want a Trump 2.0 immigration policy? And my second question is to you, Suella. You went to a private school that charges £17,000 a year.
Oh dear, you better emigrate, I think. I mean, clearly, it's absolutely appalling.
Richard,
what a terrible human being she must be.
Not at all, not at all. Richard, Nigel, Robert and Zia, I believe, all went to expensive private schools.
Very good, what fun.
What do you say to members of the public who might query your party's commitment and belief in state education? And are you able to confirm whether your children go to state schools?
By the way, I love the FT. It's fantastic. The day after the big Mandelson story broke, your front page politics story was about a Reform councillor in Kent. So we'll leave it there and we'll move on. We'll leave it there. There's no point. There's no point. Just write some silly story tomorrow and have fun with it. And we won't bother to read it. Peter from The Guardian.
I've got a question for all 5 of you. I'm slightly worried about you might be feeling left out. But it's going to be a quite quick one, so yes or no answers will be fine. There's been a big measles outbreak in North London, seemingly due to the lower rates of MMR vaccination. Keir Starmer has released a statement this morning basically saying that this kind of thing shouldn't be the factor of a culture war. It's about protecting people. So would each one of you agree with Keir Starmer on that? And would each one of you urge parents to give their children the full MMR vaccine? Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And by the way, I've always believed in vaccines. I've always thought vaccines have done a hell of a lot more good than harm in society. The only argument is that we were given something over COVID that we were promised meant we couldn't catch COVID again or we couldn't pass it on, and that simply wasn't true. And the government told us that, all the while they knew that it wasn't true. So it was, you know, they could have had a different diagnosis for it. But yeah, to see the outbreaks in measles is, I think, in 2026 is very disturbing, yeah. I don't speak on their behalf. Yes. Do you want to answer that one?
Look, I think, well, I'll only speak for myself, but of course, I'm a parent, 3 children, I believe in vaccines. It's incredibly important that we encourage other parents to do exactly the same.
Yeah, okay. I think that'll do, don't you? I think we've done pretty well with that, thank you. Last question, Alexander from the Mirror.
Mr. Farage, your candidate, Matt Goodwin, has declined to condemn the endorsement of Tommy Robinson and claims some people born in Britain aren't British. Do you oppose Robinson support, and do you agree with Mr. Goodwin about Britishness?
I just don't have anything to do with him. And we know where Tommy Robinson's loyalties lie. He's with Ben Habib, or is he with Rupert Lowe? And are they getting together, or do they hate each other? I don't know, I'm very confused. Tommy Robinson can do what he wants to do, away from us, as long as he stays within the law, which doesn't always do. And it's just none of our business, nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the campaign in Denton and Gorton, which is next Thursday, and which is going to be incredibly close. Thank you, everybody.